Because peoples of India means people not a single identity in Indian society. Peoples mean a groups of people. Groups of people. Their identity is the caste, their identity is the religion, their identity is the ethnicities, their identity, linguistic identities, their identities, these tribal identities. There's a whole Indian society, Indian people are groups of people. They're divided and to some extent they maintain their unity. That is the main conflict, contradiction, and unity of our society. For that reason, the states before 1947, in India there are so many princely states, there are provinces, so they come together through the constitution. So that as a whole, from the very beginning of our country, itself a federation, federation of the nationalities. India, if we think that India is a nation, within the India there are so many sub-nations. Sub-nations means someone is Tamilian, someone on the basis of linguistic nation. After Second World War, all over the world, the concept developed the nation state and concept of the welfare state, both. In India, so many sub-nations. Bengali, Oriya, Tamil, Malayali, Telugu, Sikh itself a nation. In Punjab and Marathi, so many nations. There is a nation, it is a country. India is such a country, the federalism of the nation. And within the nations also, there is so many groups of people. They are divided by the caste, they are divided by the tribes, ethnicities, so that in our constitution maker, they thought that we have such a type of India that all the groups of people, they come together, their development, their self-governance, their autonomy. It is the basic thing of our constitution. India is a union of states. It is a union of the states. Within India, all the states have equal participation, equal responsibility, equal, because the states create the union. Union not create the states. States create the union. All the states, they have their own responsibility. They have their own self-governance ideas. For that reason, in Article 3 of the Constitution, that is a reorganization of the state. For that reason, in our parliament also enacted the Reorganization State Act also. Reorganization, the state will be organized on the basis of linguistic nations. For that reason, Jharkhand state come up, new states, Uttarakhand come up, Chhattisgarh come up, because the development, the concept is the development of the sub-nations and identities people, the tribal peoples, and particularly in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, that states emerge for the development and self-governance of the tribals, mainly. And same time in Uttarakhand also, self-governance of the hill peoples. So many states would be reorganized, new states become, there's a name that's also new states. But very interesting thing, that in our constitution we can reorganize the state, but we cannot. A state can be created as the union territory. It is happening in our country. At the time of appropriations of Article 370 by the Supreme Court, the Jammu and Kashmir state become the three union territory. In our constitution provision, there is no provision. A state become the union territories. Till it is pending, they are not getting the status of the state. I am talking that and then what is the guidelines of our constitution? That is breakup. When the states become the union territories, the three-part union territories, it is the principles of constitution is completely going to gradually destruct it. And our Citizenship Act, particularly in Indian Constitution, from Article 5 to Article 11, so many provisions is in citizenship. Nowhere in the world, at least 6 articles to govern the citizenship. And also, Parliament enacted the Citizenship Act. And now what is going on? In the name of SIF, Election Commission, they are trying to identify the citizens. When the people are citizens, how the people will prove that they are the citizens? It is the very interesting dichotomy in our country now. We are facing in the phase of restrictions of the principles of the constitutions also. Now, basic today's topics, that is separated power. States and center both are the separated power. They are the division of power. Division of power means that is the executives. One is parliament, every state have legislature, executive, center have own executive, states have own executive power. At the same time, judiciary also. Union judiciary is a federal judiciary. It is called the apex judiciary. All the states have their own judicial system. Even the distributions of the finance, distributions of the wealth also, because the revenue collected by the states. Earlier revenue collected by the states. State revenue, they're running the states. Now come up the GST, goods and service tax. By these come up the GST, the states earning, states revenue become very much less. Even the collected revenues through GST, it is not properly distributed to the states for the development of states. Till the states only manage the maximum 40% of their own income, different revenue, different tax, excise tax, so many taxes. The financial power also becoming controlled by the union. That means the centralize the power, centralize the finance also. It is become a serious crisis also now. All the states, they depends on the mercy of the union. That cannot be. Because it is the right to the state, they have a self-governance. They have to manage their finance also. In spite of that, center till searching the general revenue from the state in different way. The question is, Article 356 is a very important question. My earlier speakers who inaugurated this very important seminar, and also our friend came from the Andhra Pradesh Telangana, he also mentioned about it. The use and misuse of 356. Now, it is checked now. Because from the very beginning of the constitutional state, the party they are using the 356. 356 because a democratic government, elected government, in the name of failure of missionaries of the states, they dislodge a democratic government. Now it is become almost checked now. But it is checked, but the government is not running their own way. Now is the role of the governor. Role of the governor of the very important now. Because the governor in the states, particularly in India, in different states, there is no party in power, particularly the power in union, the party power in union and central government. They are trying to appoint their own men in the non-union government run the party. Particularly now we are observing in Tamil Nadu, in question of other state also, into some extent Kerala also, and in Bengal also. These government mainly they are completely obstructing the work of the state government in question of assent of the bill. Question assent of the bill, they are keeping sitting. They are not assent the bill, they are sending the bill to the president also. This is a very serious crisis now. Even in that case, the very recently, last 20th November, the Apex Court, a constitution bench, overruled their own court's two judges bench ruling. You know very well that two judges bench in the month of April, they have decided the governor and president should have assent the bill, whatever it is, or return the bill within the limit of 3 months. But constitutional bench overruled the judgment of the two judges bench judges. But this constitutional bench giving the discretionary power to the governor and also left it to the governor also. When two judges, they are giving the direction to the president and governor to assent the bill within the limited time, but constitutional bench overruled these judgments. In this context, you know very well that in Sarkaria Commission report, Sarkaria Commission, it was constituted in the year 1983, headed by Justice R.S. Sarkaria. Sarkaria Commission also, I am coming up the Sarkaria Commission findings, that is Sarkaria Commission categorically stated that the governor cannot exercise the discretionary power. Governor should have taken a decision within a short period. Even in the Justice Venkatachalaya Commission in the year 2002. That commission also submitted in their report that that should be the time bound of the assent the bill by the governor and president. Maybe it is 6 months or whatever it is. In spite of the recommendation of the commission's report, I do not know how the left all the thing to discretionary power to the president and governor to assent the bill enacted by the state government. Question is, by this which the relation between state and center relation, it is a friendly relation, it is unitary relation. Center should have respect the state also. Because the legislation means the peoples of the state, their representative, they have enacted a bill. That should be honored. That should be coming to act. So many issues are coming, particularly question of division of power, distributions of finance. Everything is going to centralize. Centralized means that is a unitary. Because, but in our peoples of India, they are in different state, their awareness, their financial position, their own traditional laws are different. For that reason, in constitution also there is a schedule, that is the tribal land schedule, tribal areas, governance of tribal people also. At the same time, the nationalities of the Indian states, they should have maintained their self-governance. Finally, I want to say that is entire situation is going in different way. RSS chief very recently in Manipur, he stated the call the oneness. Oneness means one nation, one election. One nation, one election means one country. One country means their agenda. Hindi, Hindu, Hindutva agenda. Means one language. In question of language also. Question of language, it is very much clear that peoples of India, they can redress their grievances in different languages. They can write their letter, they can write their submission, proposal, memorandum in any language. Now question is the one language, Hindi. They tried to demolish the sub-nation's identity of Oriya, Bengali, Tamil, Malayali, Punjabi, so many identities they are trying to demolish. One nation. For what purpose? One nation. India as a one nation. But it is a unitary, it is a union of so many sub-nations. Sub-nations should have preserved their culture, their identity, their self-governance. And they tried to demolish the parliamentary democratic system. Parliamentary democratic system, they don't want, they try to one unitary government, presidential form of government. It is very much danger to the peoples of India now. So that we have to be very much careful of it. we have to discuss because our constitution assembly, they adopted the constitution. It is a mutual agreement and consent of the peoples of India. And peoples of India, they believe, their dream that India would be a nation by which their culture, their language must be preserved. We have to now discuss how we will maintain our Indian polity of all the nations polity. How to preserve our culture, how to our diversities, our financial autonomy, our political self-governance autonomy. So many subjects come forward now. If we want to fight against such type of oneness agenda, they are trying to build up this India a Hindu religion state, Hindu state. India is not a religious state. It obviously we have to oppose this idea of religion state. Because our constitution is a secular constitution to maintain all the status, equal status of all the religions. So that India cannot be a religion state. We have to fight for that. Academically, we have to discuss with the people who are trying to destroy our constitution values, who are trying to revival of Manusmriti. I tell them they're trying to revival of Manusmriti, rule of Manu, not rule of constitution, on the basis of secularism, democratic republic. Now I am going to conclude only two things. That is, in the present circumstances, we can remember Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Dr. Ambedkar says, all law therefore safely say that the Indian Federation will not suffer from the fault of rigidity of legalism. It is distinguishing feature is that it is a flexible federation. India is a federation. India not a one nation. India not a one religion. India not a one linguistic nation. And also what Pandit Nehru says, how shall we promote the unity of India and yet preserve the rich diversity of our inheritance? Very important. How we will preserve our diversity? How we will preserve our culture? How we will preserve our self-governance, our rich inheritance, coalition with all the religions, all the peoples? We believe that first our values include the mankind. Religion is the personal matter. Religion is the practice of person only within the four corners of all. Religion cannot be the state authority. So we have started to discuss how to maintain our federal structure of the relation with state and nation, how to maintain our cultural diversity, language, and so many things. That discussion is started in capital of our country. We think that it is our duty to discuss more and to propagate, to preserve our rich inheritance. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuwad sir, for that powerful and eye-opening address. I would like to invite a second speaker, that is Sri Shashi Sonawati.
Respected Diane and ladies and gentlemen. Special thanks to the organizers of the Indian Democratic Party of India for organizing a seminar for a true federalism within the ambit of constitution when we are in a very trying times, critical phase of this republic where we are not very sure whether we really are living within the constitution or not. So let us not be biased. Nobody who is present here is anti-national, anti-constitutional. We all are true Indians, patriots. But at the same time, we need to be critical about our constitution, about our Indian republic. साथियों, भारत के संविधान का पहला वाक्य कहता है हम भारत के लोग. Constitution preamble says we the people of India, and Article 1 says India, that is Bharat, is a union of states. That states is not defined. It gets defined in the later articles. And it got more and more defined in the later days, later months, later years. Through the States Reorganization Commission and etc. Which we form on the basis of the linguistic nationalities, which the earlier speaker rightly put. बात ऐसी है कि भारत 1947 में जब आजाद हुआ पार्टीशन के बैकग्राउंड पर, तो संविधान निर्माताओं के सामने एक बड़ी उलझन भी थी और एक बड़ा चैलेंज भी था. चैलेंज ये था कि पार्टीशन के बाद का जो भू क्षेत्र है उसको एक राष्ट्र के रूप में हम कैसे स्थापित करें, उसको कैसे विकसित करें. उलझन ये थी कि क्या ये एक राष्ट्र है. ये उलझन तो थी क्योंकि अंग्रेज आने तक politically we don't find the present boundaries that is India. But there is one unifying factor. एक जाति व्यवस्था के अभ्यास के रूप में मैं अगर कहूँ तो एक यूनिफाइंग फैक्टर इंडियन सब कॉन्टिनेंट में वो ये है, आप किसी भी धर्म के हो सकते हो, वो समतामूलक हो या विषमतामूलक हो, वो ईश्वर मानने वाला हो या निरीश्वरवादी हो, भारत के भीतर ये भारतीय उपखंड में, और भारतीय उपखंड की बात करता हूँ जिसमें आपका पाकिस्तान, बांग्लादेश, श्रीलंका, नेपाल सब है. जाति व्यवस्था एक यूनिफाइंग फैक्टर. अब एक तरफ आपका जाति व्यवस्था है, जाति व्यवस्था के भीतर के जातीय उत्पीड़न है. दूसरी तरफ अंग्रेजों ने कॉलोनियल पीरियड में जो भू क्षेत्र अपने कब्जे में लिया है, जिसे ब्रिटिश इंडिया कहा गया है, जिसके साथ उनके प्रिंसिपैलिटीज है ना, उन प्रिंसिपैलिटीज को और उस ब्रिटिश इंडिया का पार्टीशन के बाद में खड़ा कर। इसलिए जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की फेडरलिज्म के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बात होती है तो हम कहते हैं कि उसे क्वाजी फेडरलिज्म है। फेडरलिज्म की नहीं बात करते हम खुल के। इंडिया नॉट यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ इंडिया, इंडिया इज अ यूनियन स्टेट्स ऑफ इंडिया, क्योंकि उस पार्टीशन का इस भूक्षेत्र के भीतर के सामाजिक आर्थिक राजनीतिक विषमता को केंद्र में रखते हुए संविधान निर्माताओं ने इसे यूनियन ऑफ स्टेट्स का, कि जहां पर बायस जो है हल्का सा केंद्र की तरफ हो, जिससे ये देश बिखर न जाए। और बिखरने के सारे औजार मौजूद है साम्राज्यवाद की तरफ से। कईयों ने लिखा था, तारीख भी लिख दी थी, ये बाल्कनाइजेशन हो जाएगा इंडिया का, और सामने धर्म आधारित राष्ट्र खड़ा था पार्टीशन के बाद पाकिस्तान। तो हमारे सामने बड़ा चैलेंज था कि विविध भाषा, विविध प्रांत, विविध कस्टम्स, ट्रेडिशन, कई सारे धर्म, कई सारी श्रद्धा, कई सारी एथनिसिटीज, ऐसे तमाम लोगों को एक राष्ट्र के फ्रेम में कैसे देखे। और अभी चमड़े जैसे मैं बिल्कुल सहमत हूँ कि राष्ट्र नाम का कोई भी शब्द हमारे संविधान में उस तरह से है ही नहीं। तो जिस राष्ट्र की अभी आजकल बात हो रही है उसको ज्यादा गंभीरता से मैं तो लेने के लिए तैयार नहीं हूँ, है ना, अगर संविधान के फ्रेम में बात करते हैं। तो इस चैलेंज को उन्होंने लिया और उस प्रकार से हमारा फ्लेक्सिबल फेडरलिज्म की बात करने वाला क्वाजी फेडरल हमारा एक स्ट्रक्चर हमारे सामने आया। और वो फ्लेक्सिबल था इसलिए भाषा के आधार पर राज्य बने, जिन राज्यों को बनाने में इस देश के मजदूर वर्ग ने अपना खून बहाया है। मैं जिस महाराष्ट्र से आता हूँ, मुंबई के करीब से आता हूँ, हमारे यहाँ तो मुंबई के मजदूरों ने मुंबई से संयुक्त महाराष्ट्र की लड़ाई लड़ी, जो कि स्टेट रीऑर्गेनाइजिंग कमीशन और उसके वो सारे इसमें 1960 में महाराष्ट्र बना, गुजरात बना। ये क्या कारण था? ये सिर्फ भारत के भीतर के तमाम राष्ट्रीयता को मान्यता देता। अगर हम जब कहते हैं कि यूनियन ऑफ स्टेट्स है, तो इंडिया इज अ नेशन इन फॉर्मेशन वेयर different nationalities and sub-nationalities came together within the ambit of constitution, declared themselves as India. ये मैं मानता हूँ। हालांकि संविधान में नेशनलिटीज और सब नेशनलिटीज ऐसा कोई जिक्र नहीं, लेकिन उसका आशय बार बार भी देखा है। इसलिए जब डिवीजन ऑफ पावर्स की बात आई तो केंद्र को लेकर बायस होते हुए भी आपकी स्टेट लिस्ट बनी, कॉन्करेंट लिस्ट बनी 7 शेड्यूल की, और साथ ही साथ इस देश के भीतर एथनिक आइडेंटिटीज, खास करके आदिवासी जो इलाके हैं उनके एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के लिए 5वीं अनुसूची बनी, 5th शेड्यूल, 6th शेड्यूल बना नॉर्थ ईस्ट के लिए, कि जहां उनके अपने परंपरा के अनुसार वहां का व्यवहार चले और केंद्र का कम से कम हस्तक्षेप हो। ये हो गई रचना। लेकिन जिस तरह से पिछले 70-75 साल में और खास करके 90 के दशक के बाद से पूंजी का केंद्रीकरण होते हुए हमको दिखाई दे रहा है, एक बहुत बड़ा मतलब संपत्ति का जहां केंद्रीकरण होते जाता है वैसे वैसे सत्ता का भी केंद्रीकरण होता है। तो वो दौर हम देख रहे थे कि संपत्ति का केंद्रीकरण है तो उसकी राजनीतिक अभिव्यक्ति, पॉलिटिकल एक्सप्रेशन comes in the form of concentration of power. अगर संपत्ति कुछ चंद हाथों में होगी तो राजनीतिक सत्ता भी चंद हाथों की तरफ ही सिकुड़ती जाएगी, समेटती जाएगी। और डेमोक्रेसी और फेडरलिज्म इसका गहरा रिश्ता है। डेमोक्रेटिक स्पेस अगर सिकुड़ जाएगी तो फेडरलिज्म काम नहीं करता। लोकतंत्र, डेमोक्रेटिक फ्रेमवर्क जैसे जैसे उसका स्पेस सिकुड़ता जाता है, उसका श्रिंक होते जाता है, वैसे वैसे केंद्र की सत्ता ज्यादा मजबूत होते हुए हमको नजर आती है। इसलिए कॉन्करेंट लिस्ट में तो पूरा एनक्रोचमेंट ही है, जबकि स्टेट के साथ कंसल्ट करना चाहिए, लेबर लॉ वगैरह सब मामले में क्या हो। लेबर कोड आपने जब ये 4 लेबर कोड बना दिए, कितने स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स की कितनी राय आपने सुनी और उस हिसाब से लेबर कोड को लेकर आपने तब्दीली की? ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं, कोई चर्चा नहीं है, कोई डिबेट नहीं है, बस आपने लगा दिया, कर दिया। उसी तरह से आपका प्लानिंग का मिशन है, कर दिया। जीएसटी का वही हाल है। अब जीएसटी का तो ये हाल कर दिया है कि जो राज्य सरकारें अपने दम पर अपना आर्थिक विकास कर रहे थे, अपना टैक्सेशन कर रही थी, आज वो अपनी सॉवरेन शब्द गलत होगा, लेकिन उनकी जो ऑटोनॉमी, वो ऑटोनॉमी वो खो चुके हैं। और अगर और थोड़ा सा स्पष्ट रूप से और सड़क छाप भाषा में बात करूं, तो आजकल राज्य सरकारों की हैसियत म्युनिसिपैलिटी से अधिक नहीं है। दे आर टोटली डिपेंडेंट ऑन द सेंट्रल फंड्स। Independent of central funds, no state government can function. ये परिस्थिति आ गई। और मैं चूंकि आंदोलन में रहता हूँ, लोगों के बीच में रहता हूँ, और हमारा पाला लोक प्रतिनिधि के साथ भी रहता है और प्रशासन के साथ भी रहता है। तो जो प्रशासन पहले ये कहते थे आईएएस कैडर के लोग कि यार ऊपर से आ रहा था, तो ऊपर से जब दबाव आ रहा है तो उसके दो मतलब निकलते थे, मतलब 2 लेवल के दबाव होते थे। एक दिल्ली से होता था और एक राज्य की राजधानी से, मतलब मुंबई से दबाव होता था। भाई दोनों तरफ से सीएमओ से भी दबाव है, पीएमओ से भी दबाव है, तो हमको करना पड़ेगा, ये वाली भाषा होती थी। अब सीएमओ वाली बात कम है, अभी सीएमओ की बात है, क्योंकि आपका बिहार कैमरे लगे हुए, साहब किधर है तो साहब मीटिंग में, किसके साथ बात करें? पीओ के साथ बात करें। नाउ पीओ प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स ऑफिस इज द पावरफुल सेंटर, is the powerful political center which determines the existence of states. Existence. इसलिए जम्मू कश्मीर का है ना, जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों की हैसियत नहीं है कि वो बोल सके कि हमारा राज्य है, आपको नहीं थे। महाराष्ट्र की भी हैसियत नहीं कि मुंबई महाराष्ट्र में रहेगा कि नहीं रहेगा, ये कहने की पीओ विल डिसाइड। तो दैट मींस व्हाट कि ये पूरी तरह से इम्बैलेंस हो चुका है। संविधान निर्माताओं ने संविधान के भीतर जो प्रावधान है, जो प्रोविजंस है, उन प्रोविजंस को इन्होंने इम्बैलेंस कर दिया वर्तमान सरकार। तो वर्तमान सरकार जिस विचारधारा से आती है, तो वो विचारधारा के अनुरूप वो करेंगे। एक राष्ट्र, एक भाषा, एक धर्म, है ना, सब एक एक एक। यूनिफॉर्मिटी इज नॉट यूनिटी। ये बहुत हमारे यहाँ गलत फहमी फैलाई जाती है। यहाँ यूनिटी की बात नहीं हो रही है, यहाँ यूनिफॉर्मिटी की बात की जाती है कि हम जो है वही है। जब आप यूनिटी की बात करते हो तो सामने वाले का रिस्पेक्ट करना पड़ता है। इसलिए भारत के भीतर के तमाम जो डाइवर्सिटी है, विविधताएं हैं, उन विविधता को समेटते हुए, उन विविधता को अपनी एक स्पेस देते हुए आपका एक बड़ा रिपब्लिक खड़ा हो जाता है। चैलेंज सिर्फ फेडरलिज्म को नहीं, चैलेंज डेमोक्रेसी को भी, चैलेंज इंडियन रिपब्लिक को भी है। भारत के गणराज्य का जो अस्तित्व 1950 में हमने बनाया, 26 नवंबर को एक संविधान प्रदान करते हुए, वो गणराज्य का अस्तित्व का अभिषेक। तो ये बातें थोड़ी सी तीखी लगती है, लेकिन हकीकत यही है। अब आने वाले दिन में बड़े चैलेंजेस आने वाले हैं। देखो आर्टिकल 82 आपका कहता है कि भाई सेंसस के बाद डिलिमिटेशन एक्ट पार्लियामेंट पास करती है और नए कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो जाती है। तो अब तक हमारे पास तो पुराने डेटा के हिसाब से हमने किया है, 2026 तक का है अगला साल। उसके बाद जो भी सेंसस होगा, वो सेंसस में जिस तरह के लोक संख्या बढ़ेगी जिन जिन इलाकों में, उस लोक संख्या के अनुपात में आपकी नई कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज मतदार संघ की पुनर्रचना होगी। न्यू कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज विल इमर्ज। अब ये जो नई मतदार संघ बनेगी लोक संख्या के अनुसार, वो किन इलाकों में, यहाँ पर आपको फेडरलिज्म के सामने बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है। जो दक्षिण भारत के तमाम जो राज्य है, उनके भीतर के तमाम इंटेलेक्चुअल्स, इंटेलिजेंसिया, सोशल थिंकर्स, पॉलिटिकल थिंकर्स, उनके बीच में ये चिंता का विषय बन चुका है। खास करके तमिलनाडु में है ना, कि वो चिंता का विषय ये बन चुका है कि अगर नए मतदार संघ पुनर्रचना में नर्मदा के नीचे के राज्यों के मतदार संघ कम हो जाते हैं और नर्मदा के ऊपर के मतदार संघ बढ़ जाते हैं, तो फिर राज्यों का कितना अधिकार बचेगा? तमिलनाडु हो, केरल हो, कर्नाटक हो, महाराष्ट्र हो, उड़ीसा हो, इन सब राज्यों का कितना मतलब बन जाता है, वो कितना अधिकार अपना बोल सकते हैं, इसकी एक मर्यादा आ जाती है। और पूरी तरह से एक मेजोरिटेरियन रूल इस बहाने से स्थापित हो जाता है। इसलिए वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन या फिर एक राष्ट्र एक भाषा एक धर्म, ये जो स्लोगन होते हैं ये सिर्फ विचारधारात्मक और प्रचारात्मक स्लोगन नहीं बनते, वो भारत के चरित्र के भीतर हस्तक्षेप करते हुए भारत के चरित्र को बदलने वाले स्लोगन बन जाते, जिसके रूपरेखा भी हम लोग देख। इसलिए हमारे सामने चैलेंज बढ़े। अब इसके खिलाफ में या इसको बदलने के लिए वन नेशन वन बोलने दीजिए या फिर ये वन नेशन वन रिलीजन वाला एस्पेक्ट होना चाहिए दीजिए, इसके खिलाफ में भारत के संविधान के भीतर के जितने भी प्रावधान है उसको पकड़ते हुए उसको लेकर एक रियल डेमोक्रेसी की तरफ हमको लड़ाई लेके जानी पड़ेगी। और हम देख रहे हैं कि देश भर में जो इलाके वंचित बहुजन लोगों के हैं, शोषित लोगों के हैं, आदिवासी लोग हैं, वहां पर रेजिस्टेंस है ना। जहां जहां जंगल जमीन दी जा रही है वहां पर वो उन्हीं संवैधानिक प्रावधान को लेकर रेजिस्ट कर रहे हैं। हालांकि उन संवैधानिक प्रावधानों को सरकार नहीं मानती। फिफ्थ शेड्यूल के जितने भी प्रोविजन है हमारे शेड्यूल एरिया में नहीं माने जा रहे। लेबर को तो पहले ही लागू थे, अभी तो थोड़ी बदल दिया, तो लागू करने का भी सवाल नहीं आता। ये सब हो रहा है, फिर भी देयर इज अ रेजिस्टेंस। किसानों ने दिखा है इसी दिल्ली में कि कैसे 5 साल पहले की बात है, ज्यादा दूर की बात नहीं है कि किसान जब एक साथ आ जाते हैं तो स्टेट लिस्ट में जो एग्रीकल्चर का विषय है वो केंद्र अपने दायरे में खींचकर इंक्रोच करते हुए कानून जैसे थोपने की कोशिश करता है, तो उसको रेजिस्टेंस आ जाता है। और किसान एक ब्रॉड कैटेगरी के रूप में नहीं आया, वो किसान आंदोलन के भीतर वो सप्रेस नेशनलिटीज भी अभिव्यक्त हो जाती है, जिससे केंद्र को फिर एक बात दोबारा सोचना पड़ता है और 2 कदम पीछे हटना पड़ता है। लेकिन वो 2 कदम पीछे हटे, आने वाले दिनों में क्या ऐसा करेंगे नहीं करेंगे वो देखने वाली बात। तो कुल मिलाकर मेरा निवेदन इतना ही कि एक सशक्त भारत हमको अगर विकसित करना है तो संविधान के भीतर ये जो क्वाजी फेडरलिज्म है, उस क्वाजी फेडरलिज्म का प्रवास, उसकी जो यात्रा है उसको ट्रू फेडरलिज्म की तरफ ले जाना पड़ेगा। अब ट्रू फेडरलिज्म की तरफ ले जाने का मतलब तो राज्य जो है वो देने वाले हाथ बन जाए, लेने वाले हाथ नहीं चलेंगे कि हमारे पूरा टैक्स आप केंद्र में लो, अब फिर केंद्र अपने अपने डबल इंजन जहां चाहे ट्रिपल इंजन जहां तक थोड़ा थोड़ा देते जाएंगे। ये नौकरी की नहीं, राज्य के फाउंडेशन पर, स्टेट्स के फाउंडेशन पर ही सेंटर का चयन। तो सेंटर के हाथ में जो ब्रॉड नेशनल बाउंड्रीज को प्रोटेक्शन करने के लिए या अंतरराष्ट्रीय संबंधों को देती है या करेंसी या इकोनॉमी, इन सब जो सेंटर की लिस्ट में जो विषय है उन विषयों पर ही उसको सीमित रखना पड़ेगा। अब कॉन्करेंट लिस्ट के कई सारे विषयों को आने वाले दिनों में स्टेट की लिस्ट में हमको तब्दील करना। जाते जाते एक मुद्दा रह गया, मैं याद दिलाने के लिए बोल दूं कि संविधान बनने के बाद भी बड़ी चालाकी से कुछ विषय जो शायद केंद्र में होने चाहिए थे वो राज्य में बन गए, जैसे लैंड रिफॉर्म्स। लैंड रिफॉर्म्स की बात जब बात आई, क्योंकि जब भू सुधार करने की बात हुई तो तमाम नीचे शूद्र अतिशूद्र जातियों के लोगों के हाथ में जमीन का अधिकार देने की बात थी, तो वो राज्य पर छोड़ दिया और केंद्र ने कहा वो राज्य करे। और जब भूमि अधिग्रहण की बात आती है, उसी जमीन को लेने की बात आती है, तो केंद्र बोलता है करेंगे, क्योंकि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का पूरा अधिकार है पूरी टेरिटरी पर और वो पूरा अपना अधिकार जमा करती है। ये अंतर, इन सारे अंतर विरोधों को हमको छोड़ना होगा, उसको रिजॉल्व करना होगा। और साथ ही साथ वी आर डिफरेंट पीपल, वी आर डाइवर्स पीपल, बट वी हैव वन कॉमन कॉज, वी हैव वन कॉमन ड्रीम, we have one common goal. तो जो common goal क्या है, common dream क्या है, इसको हमको बार बार चिन्हित करना होगा, underline करना होगा, तभी ये federalism टिक पाएगा. Once again, I'm very grateful to all of you.
That was a good and that was a good analysis which shows that why true federalism is not just a political idea, but a historical necessity. And now, thirdly, it's an honor to invite our Professor Dr. L. Jawaharlal Ji, former Vice Chancellor of JSS Science and Technology University.
Dear brothers and sisters, Honorable President of this conference, Sardar Jeevan Singh Ji, National President of the Dravida Party, organizers of this event, Bahujan Dravida Party and New Democratic Party of India, and distinguished speakers, and other supporting members of this event. Good evening. I am delighted to be part of this event today. And I really appreciate the organizers, especially Sardar Jeevan Singh Ji and his team, for organizing this event on the theme for a true federalism. As we witness these days, majoritarianism, totalitarianism, unitary approach, and highly intolerant establishment at the helm of affairs at the different states and as well at the national capital. I think that this is time now, after 75 years of Democratic Republic of India, since its inception, I think that it's overdue to evaluate and rate ourselves or introspect ourselves as to we really perform as democratic republic. And I think that once in a while time goes, I think that we have to evaluate. We have to look back and see whether our constitution is performing or not. Do we have in the first place performing constitution? Or our constitution is doing its intended purpose and goals for which it has been constituted, formulated. And another issue that we need to evaluate our constitution is that the world is heading towards a large-scale transformation, especially world over. The humankind is heading for a radical topside-down change in the way in which it lives its life, in the way in which it exploits its natural resources, in the way in which the humankind involves in its production to satisfy its requirements. I think it is heading towards, as the chief economist won Nobel Prize
this year, 2025, as they call it, creative destruction. Creative destruction means it is by innovation, technologically driven, the human production is going to be sustained. It's not based on the Marxian kind labor. The human labor is now dominated by, as per in the words of the economist who won Nobel Prize this year, creative destruction. That means even Karl Marx has to be revisited now. The value of labor, Karl Marx defined those days about 200 years ago. I think it needs to be revisited if that applies to the economy. Constitutions are not just permanent. It's man-made. We made it. It is wrong. Constitution can never be static. If it doesn't perform, it is not for us. If Constitution doesn't perform, it is not for us. It's not for this country. It's not for this polity. It's not for this society. Let us not put any sacredness and sanctity on anybody, even on Dr. Ambedkar. Just because he drafted the Constitution and elect this, let us not, even if Dr. Ambedkar is alive here and sit here, he would appreciate me for this job. Because his vision was pure. And it was never having any compromise on giving the right vision for this country, for this polity. He never failed. Because at that time there was an insistence. He had to compromise. He himself said, after drafting this constitution, he himself said that if the constitution were to be burned, he would be the first person to burn. He himself. So I say that let us not shy away from revisiting the constitution now. We, the citizen of this country, we, the people of the country, now should do it with the advent of this new totalitarian approaches, ever increasing in this country. I think that this is the right time. We have to create a debate. Each and every citizen of this country should be involved, because this is very, very righteous time and right action, and this is the core, because this is deciding the fate of our fundamental existence, the fundamental existence of all politics in this country. We have to. But over and above, the world is heading towards a new direction. As I said, that based on the economic theory, creative destruction. That means technologically driven innovation is going to drive human production. So human production is altogether now getting changed. And eventually human relationships and human communications are also getting changed. A new life, a new way of acquiring things, tasting things, meeting our requirements, all are getting changed. So when things are getting changed, we cannot remain as static forever, hoping that things will come on its own and serve us in due course of time. I don't think that it will happen. It will never happen unless we sit on it and make an assertion and determination on it. Say, for instance, one thing. When societies are converging all over the world, societies are converging in terms of values we are sharing each other. Americans are sharing with Indians, with Chinese, and Chinese are sharing with the rest of the world. So the world is now converging now. Societies are converging, not nations. Nations are diverging. The nations once talk about globalization, universalization, international trade, and World Trade Organization, all nonsense of this World Trade Organization, you look at it, all were built upon globalization and universalization. But now the same countries who propagated internationalization, globalization of all cultures, of trade, of business, of industries, of production, everything. Now, the same propellers are now talking against it, going for protectionism. Now the Trump, the United States of America, what it does? It is talking about protective trade, job protection, indigenous US made. They never talk about US made, global made, world made so far. Now the same US is talking about US made. Our Indian guys are also talking about Indian made, startup. The same slogan is now spreading everywhere. The countries are now the superpowers so far are now looking inward. Looking. So far they have been outward looking to conquer the world. Now they are going through inward protectionism. And this is nations. But the society is the opposite. The society is converged. Whatever I eat, Americans want to eat now. Whatever Americans eat, I want to eat now. Whatever the way we dress and they eat and we eat. And the cultural values are being shared and converged and blended. I think that the society is becoming more and more organic now. Whereas the nations are static and inorganic. That means, what is the contrast? And what is the reason for it? Why nations are diverging whereas societies are converging? I think that we have to look into it. Unless we look into it, the basic root cause of it, we would not know what we have here is federalism or unitarianism. We cannot. This is very important. Why societies are organic and becoming more and more merging, converging together as one and the same. Don't you see? I think that the differences and gaps between societies are now coming close, globally and talking about. But the nations are diverging and going inward and segregating themselves. The reason is nations always wants to, the existential crisis. It's the existential crisis of the nation that nation wants to exist. And in order to want to exist, the nations consolidate. And the consolidation easily doesn't happen with, as the rulers and ruling establishments think, it doesn't happen easily with diversity. That is their notion. But the reality is, the easiest way is to indoctrinate, centralize, unionize, unitarianize, and oneness, and everything they will try to do to consolidate. That is the existential crisis of nation. And the nations take their own stand. The American nationalism has its own flair. What Trump does, you know that. I think you are here. And what Modi does here is a Hindutva nation, Hindu Rashtra, Hindutva, based on the ideals of Hindu. It's a cultural oneness. And they want to use the constitution to inculcate and sustain this oneness. But the constitution gives the fundamental rights to every citizen of this country in terms of practicing faith and religion, in terms of practicing education and educating themselves, in terms of practicing and preserving their cultural value systems and traditions, and in terms of holding the natural resources and land and everything. But whether it is practiced there or not, that is the question. But fundamentally, I have a problem with the constitution itself that I'm going to come out with a little bit. But the constitution, the idea, the theme and spirit of the constitution is based on the polities of this country. As our guest speakers, distinguished speakers mentioned that we have nations, it is a nation of nations, as Dr. Ambedkar said. So it's a nation of nations. Nations means polity. So that means how nations are formed is the question now. Nations evolve with distinct polities or polity. Simple. If we have a uniform cultural value systems, traditions, these, that, religion, everything, then unitary system of governance and constitution is enough. But in case, if we have polities, different diverse polities in the country with the different, traditions, culture, value, languages, religions, and so on, that means different polities, diverse polities, which are diametrically opposite each other. And these polities should be reflected in the formation of the nationhood. Did it happen in this country? At the outset, I would like to submit to all before you, our constitution does not. I'm going to establish it in the next half an hour. I'm going to establish, you might differ from me, or I'm just proposing to fellow citizens and the legal lawyers of this country, nearby the Supreme Court is also there, let them also hear this and answer me. I will be educated. Nations evolve with distinct polities. That is the underline. Polities evolve with distinct societies. Polities do not come without societies. And based on the notion of societies, polities evolve. Polity, as a linguistically, Tamil Nadu, Gujarati, Bengal. Bengali doesn't mean just people speaking Bengal. Or Tamil doesn't mean just speaking Tamil. It has a language. It has culture. It has value. It has tradition. It has knowledge. Same applies to Punjab. Everybody in this country. Every polity is entitled to have its own notion. And that notion is the face value of the polity. My question to the constitutional experts in this country is that whether the constitution of this country reflects these polities, diverse polities or not. That's why I said that at the outset, not. So I said that the polities evolve with the distinct societies, with the notion of respective notional societies, means then the polities get nationhood with defined constitution. As a result, constitution is a result of notional societies, isn't it? If polities are defined by notion of societies, and constitution is a result of notion of societies. I have a notion from Tamil Nadu. Punjabis have a notion from Tamil Nadu. Hindus have a notion. Sikhs have a notion. Every diverse walks of this country have notion. And these notions should be reflected in the fundamental principles and framework of any constitution that we intend to have. And we must also practice it. Only then I can accept that the constitution is a performing constitution. Otherwise, it's a dead piece of paper. If it doesn't perform, it's a dead piece of paper. How can I respect the constitution if that constitution doesn't perform then? In the most intended way, as the architects have defined it. One mistake Dr. Ambedkar did, I would say, sorry, I take advantage, is that he thought that the constitution categories, custodians, I mean those at the establishments or the helm of affairs, he had a high regard for them. He thought that they would preserve and they would show restraint in executing the constitutional provisions by holding the helm of affairs, by being the president, by being the prime minister, by being state chief ministers, governors. He thought that he put the highest esteem on these people. That is the mistake Dr. Ambedkar did. But sometimes rascals, rowdies, and crooks also occupy these highest offices. What would happen? We cannot take a chance. So now the Constitution is, the execution, the operation of the Constitution is now left to the whims and fancy of the crooks holding the offices, the highest offices. I mean the custodian of the Constitution. I think it must be stopped. It must be stopped. So that if politics are diverse, and Constitution should show diversity. Now, come to the point here now, whether our Constitution is federal or not. Diverse polities need federal structure of governance. That is the equation, that is the linkage that the world has accepted. You and me, everyone in this country know that we are of diverse politics. Even though we have common aspirations, we have some similarities and commonalities, but we, are very much diverse. And that should be reflected. So that means that's why Dr. Ambedkar said, Indian Constitution is nothing but federal structure. But when, throughout, in normal times, the same architect said, in normal times it's federal in structure, federal in nature, but at times of crisis and emergency, it will be unitary. That is the dual facets of the Indian Constitution. That is the speciality no constitution in the world has. The American Constitution is very much static. The American Constitution is very much federal. It cannot adjust itself in times of crisis, in times of emergency. It's categorical. But the Indian Constitution can be dual. It can be unitary and it can be federal. Dr. Ambedkar said. But I want to test the Constitution today in another 10-15 minutes. I want to test it with respect to two dimensions. The first dimension is whether this Constitution fulfills the diverse politics of this country, the due characteristics of the diverse politics of this country. Doesn't have any regard to this, or in disrespect. If it disrespect, I want to throw this Constitution out of this country, and I would like to seek a new Constitution for this country, in case. But otherwise, in case if it needs modifications or some adjustments, we will go for it. Otherwise, the same Constitution, if it continues like this, non-performing, non-operational, and non-serving the diverse politics of this country, this Constitution is waste. As a common man, I'm not a legal expert. I'm asking questions. I'm testing the Constitution today. I want experts to enlighten me and educate me. If you have answers, I never seen these answers in any of the Supreme Court verdicts, the constitutional benches. The Supreme Courts and High Courts on constitutional matters are looking or reading between lines. As if we do not understand English, isn't it? Constitution is not a linguistic issue. Hermeneutics. In philosophy, we call it like hermeneutics. Hermeneutics means interpretation of knowledge, of words. Are the English experts, the Supreme Court judges, the constitutional benches? Just to read between words and then explain and literally see, find the loopholes in favor of the ruling establishments. Huh? English experts, they are not legal experts to me. Let the Supreme Court judges put me, answer me, ask me questions. I'm prepared to ask the questions and debate with them also as a layman, as a common citizen of this country. I'm prepared. Let them answer me, because I never seen in any of this, except reading words and lines in between, find the loopholes in favor of the ruling establishments. Because the questions I'm looking for is not simply sharing of center-state relations, sharing of power between center and state, but whether these judgments that they have made on constitutional issues so far, did they answer the diverse politics, the due characteristics of the politics of this country, different politics of this country? If it comes to Punjab, comes to UP, comes to Tamil Nadu, that is the politics. The constitutional bench cannot just disown, ignore the due characteristics of that polity on which the constitutional benches deliver the verdict. So I take, for instance, take the politics. Punjab, Gujarat, Bengal, Tamil Nadu, all have different facets of life and different political characteristics, social characteristics, economic characteristics. And just by having one common sentence, we cannot read in between lines when it comes to issues with them in the court of law. So that means I'm just, let's say, take for instance, Tamil Nadu. When every state is capable, has the potential to cultivate its own destiny in terms of culture, in terms of religiosity, in terms of values, in terms of tradition, in terms of jobs, in terms of economic growth, in terms of education. Why on earth we need a central government to sit there and talk about Tamil Nadu, Punjab, and Gujarat and Uttar Pradesh? Why? Don't you think that Tamil Nadu knows better than the people at Delhi or at the ruling establishment at Delhi on the flora fauna that exists, the natural resources in Tamil Nadu, how to exploit it? Why environmental laws are made common? My question to them. Why environmental laws are made common? Why the union government is attempting to pass bills on the farming matters, agriculture? You have witnessed hundreds of my Punjabi brothers, how they, sacrifice their just nearby. And the central government, just shied away, gone away of it. Huh? What it shows, you are encroaching upon the diverse polity owned by the owner of that polity. For agriculture in Punjab, the owner of the agriculture in Punjab is the Punjabis, not the central government. How dare you encroach, violate the constitution, and encroach upon Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat? Why? That is wrong. That is not federalism. It is not federalism. So constitution now is failing now. In operation. So Tamil Nadu again, Tamil Nadu in education, Tamil Nadu comparatively, even though I criticize my government in Tamil Nadu, the Chief Minister Stalin, I criticize him. But Tamil Nadu consistently showed progress in all dimensions. It's one of the first, economically grown states in entire India. Now, consistent. Go and see the infrastructure. It's one of the best infrastructures in all respect it has. Comparatively, even though there are this there, I am commenting within Tamil Nadu. And education, 52% gross enrollment ratio in higher education already achieved in Tamil Nadu, equivalent to New York. Even though it is failing in many aspects of education, but comparatively, the average gross enrollment ratio in India is 27%. Tamil Nadu, 52%. And then why do you want to tell us you educate this way or that way? Why NCRT is infiltrating into it? Why UGC is infiltrating into Tamil Nadu and telling us how to educate my children? Why? Tell me. We are already grown, better than you. But you are coming and telling us that through national education policy, the next month there is one bill is going to be passed. National, Higher Education Council. You know what? When national education policy was, released, the draft was released in 2019. In the proposal, Prime Minister was, the chairman of National Higher Education Council. They said that National Higher Education Commission, but now they changed National Higher Education Council. Prime Minister, National Education Commission, not higher education alone. And I saw the history, saying only Hitler. Hitler was the chairman of Education Council when he was heading Germany. And India attempted to have the Prime Minister to head education, as if he's the educationist. Huh? This is the problem. So there is a polity. Education is a state matter. 1935 India Act. I would say this present constitution is less federal than the 1935 India Act. Constitution. Education, land, health, agriculture, all belong to state. All belong to state in 1935. But why it did not happen in 1915? What had happened in 15 years? So the polity is lost now. If Punjab is not able to exercise its own aspirations, its people's aspiration on education, on language, on its tradition, on its religiosity, then why do you need to be part of this constitution? When you do not have a space, when Tamil Nadu doesn't have a space, and when Bengal doesn't have a space, in exercising its own aspiration, its people's aspiration, its own polity, then this question comes. So these are the questions that we have to ask now. We have to ask now. And one thing that the Article 25 on religion, practice of religion and faith. And there is a say in Article 25, subclause 2B, you look at that Hindu section, is referred to all religions, including Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. Huh? Can we say that Hinduism and Sikhism, Hinduism and Buddhism are one and the same? Diametrically opposing each other. That is why Ambedkar left Hinduism and then embraced Buddhism. The architect of this country. then how it finds the space there? Lot of background compromises there. These are all the questions now we have to ask and then resolve, and by all resolution and searching approach, we have to determine ourselves now. This is regarding the politics. And the fundamental creation of the Constitution, I think that who are the members of the Constituent Assembly, were they truly the representatives of diverse polities of this country? When they were elected as Constituent members, Assembly, members of Constituent Assembly, and the Constituent Assembly was responsible for forming this Constitution, isn't it? And if they are truly the representative of the Indian politics, the diverse politics, then I would have. They were not truly representing the people, the politics of this country. Now, how do you expect one Dr. Ambedkar to sit there and to resolve everything? These are the fundamental questions before us even today, after 75 years of, Democratic Republic of India. 75 years. It's too long. The other issues, we have to see the center-state relations, the power sharing, what our Constitution says. See, we have three lists: state list, central list, and concurrent list. My first question is, why do we need to have concurrent list? What? Why should we have a concurrent list? See, there is one provision in United States, even in India, residuary power. Residuary power. Residuary power means the powers not noticed in the Constitution, in letter and spirit. And those unnoticed, undefined powers, these are residuary powers. And in the United States, these powers automatically are vested with the state governments. If there is no power, mentioned between center-state relations, it lies with the state, not with the center. Whereas in India, it is opposite. Whatever not stipulated, the residuary powers, the powers not stipulated in the Constitution are vested with the center, not with the state. Center has power, state has power. And both can enact laws, legislate. And in case there is conflict and controversies and conflicting each other, they can go to the court. The court can interpret it if anyone violates. And why do you want to have a superlative degree for central government? On all matters, see, one thing is that, okay, the states have their own list 2. And they have the powers. And within the powers, stipulated powers, they can make legislations and laws. Every state. And when they are making this, why should they go to the President of India through the chieftain, the broker, governor? The governors are brokers. Why should they go through the governor for president assent, for enacting laws? Why? Because it is there. If a state, violates the Constitution, anyone can go to the court. A common man can go to the court. So when provisions are there, why? Unnecessary. So this is the superlative degree of the Indian Constitution that is vesting on the central powers. I just quote a couple of laws. See, Article 256, obligation of states in the Union. Article 257, control of Union over states in certain cases. Article 339, control of the Union over the administration of scheduled areas and welfare of scheduled tribes. And Article 344, Commission and Committee of Parliament on Official Language. Article 365, effect of failure to comply with or to give effect to directions given by the Union. Article 249, power of Parliament to legislate with respect to a matter in the state list in the national interest. What do you mean by national interest? The Supreme Court judges will define what that interest is. Interpretation. It is just a matter of interpretation, convenient. And then Article 252, power of Parliament to legislate for two or more states by consent and adoption of such legislation by any other state. Article 287, exemption from taxes on electricity. Article 222, transfer of a judge from one high court to another, judiciary. Article 356, you know that, what it is. Over 90 times the central government has dismissed state governments using this article. And there are so much of articles there. I have a list of so many things. And Article 357, exercise of legislative powers under the proclamation issued under Article 356. There are so much of vested with the center, even though states have their own powers in list too. The same thing is happening now in education. Education, the central government is vested with articles in entry in list 1, entry 63 to 66, entitled Empower the Central Government to set standards and coordination and setting standards in education. But the states, entry 32 in list 2, are empowered to establish, to regulate, to run education. Still there. Just because entry 25 in the concurrent list, recently in the 42nd Amendment, added the keywords, only 2 words added, university and education, medical education, engineering education, and so on. University and education, 2 words were added in entry 25. In the concurrent list. And just because of that, the central government does its excess everywhere in education using their concurrent provision and sabotage the state governments. See now, there are 14 universities, approximately, I think that if I remember correctly, there are 14 universities in Tamil Nadu, do not have, vice chancellors for the last 3 years. Can you run a university? I am a vice chancellor. Can you run a university without vice chancellor? Why? Because center is dominant. And center doesn't approve the bills passed in the state assembly of Tamil Nadu. All are pending there. When you go to the court says, we cannot put timeline for the president of India and the governor of states to dispose the bills. Why is that? Are they servant or God of this country? Is President of India the God of this country or servant of this country? I'm the citizen. I'm asking the president here in the headquarters, Delhi. I'm asking you, madam, are you my servant or are you my God? Are you superior than me? Tell me now. Let the Supreme Court answer my question. Let answer my question. My children in Tamil Nadu are suffering from lack of governance of universities in the most efficient manner. And we do not have vice chancellors. But your governor, your broker, I think, the mediator, your representative, your agent is sitting in Chennai and sabotaging this process. I want to answer. Your governor is greater, your president is greater than the people of Tamil Nadu, or people of Punjab, or people of Kerala, Bengal. Hey, you are putting sacredness and sanctity on these positions. That is wrong. Constitution doesn't say. Why do you want to protect? Why do you put sacredness in these jobs, on these jobs? President government, You are not supposed to, show any holiness to these positions because they are submitted. You show your holiness to your gods. I have no problem because I never seen my God yet. But the president and governors are my servants. They're supposed to serve me. They cannot sit on me for 3 years and 4 years on major, pertinent, important, critical bills. Without that, my state is destabilized. We are not supposed to deliver the mandates of the people. These are the major questions. So, you see, what are the bills, the anti-federal bills? I also quote some things. Everywhere, the farm bill on all state matters, agriculture, education, economy, taxation, everywhere you are on the states, but you still call it as a federal. The recent things, Constitution 13th Amendment Bill 2025, removal of prime ministers, chief ministers, and other ministers. It is in the bill form now. Government of Union Territories Bill 2025. Jammu Kashmir Reorganization Amendment Bill 2025. Work Board Bill 2025. Taxation laws. These are all in this. In 2023, about 30 bills were enacted as laws without any debate, in no time, in one motion. Where is the diversity, sir? Where did you consider the politics of the affected, concerned politics? I mean states. And you know that Citizenship Amendment Act, the role of state governments, what? And now SIR is going on. Where is the role of the state? You as the police officer, DGP, Director General of Police, you just come and then invade every state and you are doing your own job without having any consultations, without having any coordination with the concerned states. Who knows whether you are a citizen or not? States are central government. Even though the center is empowered to, on citizenship. But who does? State government. My village administrative officer knows that whether I am a citizen there or not in my village. The prime minister or the election commission doesn't know who is the citizen. Commerce, Produce, Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act thrown out 2020. 3 farm bills. A lot of bills. They are all against the Constitution, actually. But why then, when we go to the Supreme Court, we get some other kind of verdicts and directions? What has happened? Whether in this country, I think that most of the founding institutions of the Constitution, the pillars of these constitutions are nowadays deteriorating and started failing to show restraint, to show justice. They fail to show justice and show restraint. So these are all the major environmental bills and every bills. So that means that I just would like to appeal to the fellow citizens of my country. This is what Rajamanna Committee, the first ever committee constituted in this country in the year, I think, 1967. And this report was submitted during 1971 by Tamil Nadu government. This is the founding report for all reorganization, of the constitution, commissions established by the central government. See, there was the Sarkaria Commission in 1983, I think submitted by 1988. And then Punch Commission. And it was in 2007, and they submitted 2010. And all of these further committees established by the central government reflected Rajamanna Committee's report. And all these, I told you now, all these anti-federal laws and bills and initiatives and schemes and regulations by the central government consistently in the last 75 years were highlighted about 50 years ago. 50 years ago. And in the concurrent list, a lot of entries, entry 5, 8, 17, 19, 22, 23, 24, 25. 25 is education. 28, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 42. All these Rajamanda Committee said in 1971, throw this away from Constitution. Throw this away from Constitution or modify them accordingly, amend suitable to ensure federalism. Did you do that? And same was reflected by Sakaria Commission and Punch Commission. Most of them aligned with it. But if your own commissions you are not listening to, what is happening? Then why do you have all these recommendations? You think that your 543 MPs and the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers are experts? You are representatives of people, understand. You are not legal experts. You are not constitutional experts. You have to listen whether Constitution works or not and make amendments suitable or throw the certain provisions if they do not serve the purpose. And this is what. And finally, I just would like to conclude with certain just one second. Let me conclude, I will take this. Okay. So one thing is that we have seen a lot of things in the past, and we are now seeing more and more unitarianism and totalitarianism and majoritarianism in the bills and laws being passed and regulations being implemented. And executives are the executive authorities, judiciary, election commission, and other major pillars of the constitutions are not showing enough restraint to ensure the constitutional provisions work and to ensure the basic provisions of the federalism. So that means, to conclude that, I'd like to say that, as I just said in the beginning, I would like to comment on, just to highlight, reiterate, the society is the basic unit of the polity. And the notion of society identifies the polity. And polity is a distinct unit for the formation of the constitution. And that means in this line of, in this lineage, I think that we have to ensure our constitution works. Whatever the bills, whatever the laws and regulations we adapt and implement in this country should align with this lineage. Otherwise, the polity's directions, the polity's aspirations, the polity's goals will not be met. So one thing is that constitution doesn't exist only by, the nation doesn't exist only by constitution. That is one of the important points. But the preservation and protection of politics through the means of constitution is the way to ensure that the nation exists and the nation serves all of us. That means in this way, nation is a collective notions of societies. I mean politics. Collective notion of politics. That makes a nation is a notion. And notion means notion of people, notion of society, and that is at most important than the constitution. So the constitution should always try to readjust, compromise, reform, and adjust, amend itself towards achieving the aspirations of the people. I think it is that way we have to approach the constitution. And federalism should be upheld in diverse polities. And because the notion of society has different diverse dimensions like culture, economy, education, flora, fauna, environment, and values, everything, and the state is the primary unit to ensure that it happens. So that means the state must have more freedom, more authorities, and more power. So at this time of crisis, I would like to bring back Rajamandar Committee's observation, even Sarkaria Committee observation, Punch Committee observation, more or less same. Just a few points there I would like to highlight. Interstate Council by cooperative federalism. This is the key word of the committees, these three committees' recommendation. These three commissions all recommended the constitution should have provisions to ensure that the constitution works on cooperative federalism. That means cooperation between center state and to ensure federalism. And that will happen when we form interstate councils. Whatever the bills being passed in the parliament or for enactment, that should be discussed prior with the states and get states consultation and opinion before we pass it. That is what interstate council means. So this is one of the major recommendations done by all these three commissions. And elimination of presidents or governors' roles on state legislature. That is one of the provisions. And that is one of the recommendations. And the dual judiciary, that was also one of the recommendations in Rajamandar Committee, that whatever the issues, the civil laws, criminal laws, whatever the laws that are applicable to all the certain legalities applicable to specific to certain states, I think that the state judiciary will be more the right avenue to discourse or dispose on those matters. And like United States, Rajamandar Committee proposed it. And then bring all vital areas of the politics, respective politics, culture, value, language, tradition, whatever religion also, and economy, jobs, industries, and production all should come under the state's list. Only then the states can organically grow, and why not? India is now just only 4.44 plus, GDP, billion, trillion GDP, whereas China is heading towards 27 trillion, and America is already 29, 30. So with this, Tamil Nadu alone is fit now to become more than $10 trillion economy if it is allowed through federal structure. Likewise, UP can make 20 trillion, dollar GDP, what, and Punjab and everything. So I think that if you allow states to organically grow and empower them and give more freedom through more and more federal provisions, the states will be better. And as a nation, India will be one of the best countries in the world. And it is cooperative federalism is the intermediate solution, if not full federalism. That is complete, distinct duality. And at least cooperative federalism is the result. And we have to ensure that. And let us see in due course of time in future that we all work and then we sensitize the people and the people of India, pressurize the elected members and lawmakers to do this. I hope that this will be heard. And whatever I said now could be right or wrong. And it is my personal assertion. And I'm willing to get more answers and more clarity from people so that I will be educated. And by that, everyone will have an opportunity to be educated. Thank you very much for that.
1 minute. Just take my question. Don't give answer.
If they allow,
My only question. Just take my speak answer.
No. Listen. Just in finish. I am telling you.
टाइम बढ़ जाए
Only question. Putting the question.
अभी ये अभी
Just
ये
I want to ask questions. Sir, I challenge everyone. And let me ask questions. Totally confused. I have been totally confused. Okay.
That's for the great speech given by our that we were thinking about federalism and the constitution of India, how constitution is running in our society. So finally, I'd like to call Sardar Jeevan Singh Ji to share his thoughts on the federalism.
Respected, respected scholars, leaders, activists, and my dear Bahujan Dravida brothers and sisters. First of all, I express Begampura Khalsa Raj. Today is a historic day for us. For the first time, a national seminar on federalism is being held in Delhi. In the very capital, from the centralized power has been excised for over 75 years. This gathering is not just an academic event. It is a political moment. It is a social moment. And above all, it is a Bahujan Dravida moment. It's long overdue a state of emancipation promised and envisioned by the sons of the soil of this great land. Guru Nanak Ji, Bhakt Ravidas Ji, Bhakt Kabir, Bhakt Farid, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and Tegh Bahadur Ji, and the Periyar, Manuwad Kanshiram, not only envisioned, put this life as a foundation of these ideas. Why this meeting in Delhi is historic? Federalism movement, federalism movements were born in federalism movements were born in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Punjab, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Goa, West Bengal, and Maharashtra, not in Delhi. These states raised a strong voice for autonomy, for linguistic rights, for economic freedom, for identity protection, and mutual benefit for regions. Civilization that will abide by these principles of respect for all, liberty for all, and bread for all must be guiding lights. But the center was always deflect this genuine aspiration as an anti-national, anti-one segment of society, regional noise, something that must be ignored or controlled and defeated. Power must be by the few, for the few, and of the few. Few means you know who those few. Today, for the first time, a new breeze has walked into Delhi. Delhi is where Article 356 was misused again and again to destroy elected governments, direct attack on the people and their cultural and aspiration. Delhi is where the emergency was declared, suspending state autonomy entirely. Delhi is where the GST swallowed a state taxation powers. Delhi is where governors are appointed to interface with the state bills, block decisions, and de-establish governments. All these centralization actions weaken the federal spirit and turn India into a unitary structure in practice, a reality recorded repeatedly in federalism studies. So to stand here in Delhi itself and speak about federalism is to challenge the very center of centralization. It is to say we are not begging for federalism. We are reclaiming it. Why Congress, BJP, and RSS do not like federalism? Let us speak the truth about without fear. Congress model. From the 1950, Congress built a system where the central dismissed state government repeatedly using Article 356 between 1950 to 1950 and 1975. It was used more than 39 times. Congress used the planning commission to keep the states financially dependent. It centralized education, forest, environment, policy, and development. BJP model. Today, BJP use the central agencies, ED, CBI, NIA, IT, to harass the opposition, states, and leaders. It removed Article 370 without state consent. It introduced National Education Policy 2020 without consulting the states. It uses a governance. It uses the governance as a political weapon. RSS model. RSS does not believe in a federal India. RSS believes in a unitary cultural nation, one language, one culture, and one ideology. The unitary culture project cannot tolerate a strong state, strong regional languages, or strong subaltern identities. RSS is contradiction to the people of the soil. The deeper reason, the federalism weakens a Brahminical central control. Many of these controllers work against the interest of these lands and do the bidding of the foreign interests. It opens the door for regional leadership, social justice politics, and Bahujan representations. That is why the Congress, BJP, RSS ecosystem cannot accept genuine federalism. Because a genuine federalism would mean Tamil Nadu protecting a Tamil identity, Punjab protecting a Punjabi and Sikh identity, Maharashtra protecting a Marathi identity, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana protecting their cultural autonomy, and the Bahujan masses shaping the policies that state levels. Federalism breaks the monopoly of central elites. That is why they resist it. True federalism is impossible without SC/ST voice, so-called Dalit voice. Federalism is not only about the power of the states. Federalism is about which voice inside the state get a power. If the voice of the SC/ST, OBC, Adivasis, minority community is not here inside the federal structure, then the federalism in some become a hollow. When SC/ST, OBC communities get a stronger state autonomy, many possibilities opens. State like Tamil Nadu and Kerala expand a reservation beyond the 50% cap. States can subcategorize SC/ST communities to ensure the true justice. States can create a new welfare scheme, scholarships, coaching system, and economic protection. State can tailor a policy to the local caste realities more accurately than a Delhi ever can. State can ensure a strong enforcement of the SC/ST Atrocity Act. But the same document warns us, if the state fall into the upper caste dominance, they can also roll back protections, dilute the reservations, and underfund the SC/ST welfare. Therefore, federalism without SC/ST is not democracy. A federalism without OBC is not justice. A federalism without Bahujan Dravida of his nation is not a federalism at all. Democracy becomes stronger only the last person gains a power inside a state, not when only the upper caste rule the states. Why Bahujan Dravida rule in Delhi is essential for true federalism? Because you cannot see the upper caste people, the upper caste, so-called upper caste, the Brahminical forces not ruling the states. They are culminating in the Delhi only. They wanted to control the Delhi. But the SC/ST, OBC have to come here to Delhi. Let us say something clearly. Federalism will flourish only when the Bahujan and Dravidian people enter the rule Delhi. Because Bahujan politics is the only politics that respects linguistic autonomy, cultural identity, social justice, social transformation, reservation policies, regional histories, and constitutional morality. Brahminical politics wants one nation, one language, and one culture. Bahujan Dravida politics wants many nations, many language and one constitution of equality. And with that responsibility comes a duty. The Bahujan Dravida leadership must protect every state identity. When we take a power in Delhi, Tamil Nadu, Tamil identity must be protected. Punjabis and Sikh identity must be protected. Maharashtra, Marathi identity must be protected. The Northeast languages and culture must be protected. A tribal autonomy must be protected. Kashmir's political voice must be restored. Goa's cultural identity and land rights must be safeguarded. This is the real meaning of federalism. Unity in equality. Unity in equality, not unity in domination. True federalism is a social revolution. Federalism is not just a constitutional arrangement. It is challenging of caste hierarchy. Centralization has always benefit the Brahminical elite. Decentralizations always empower those who have been historically silent. Federalism is not only a political decentralization, it is a social decentralization. It brings the power closer to the oppressed. It breaks the monopoly of the middle. It creates a space for subaltern voice. It respects the dignity of the every region and community. Federalism is the path of New India, where we are here in Delhi today to send a message. India cannot survive as a centralized empire. India cannot survive as a centralized empire. India can only survive as a union of equal states. Punjab has demanded autonomy for decades under the Bhusari Reservation. Tamil Nadu formed a Rajamana committee demanding a strong federalism. Kerala, Telangana, West Bengal, Odisha, Goa, each has fought for autonomy. Jammu and Kashmir rights were taken away. That wound must be healed. This seminar is not the end of a conversation. It is the beginning of the movement. A call to courage. Federalism is not a charity from Delhi. Federalism is not a charity from Delhi. It is a birthright of every state. Federalism is not a favor from the central government. It is a very foundation of our constitution. Federalism is not a political slogan. It is a socio-political cultural revolution meant to uplift the majority of this nation, SC, ST, OBC communities, and Christians, Muslims, Sikhs, Jains, and all other whose voice shaped India's soil. From the Sikh Guru to Periyar, from the Sikh Gurus to Periyar, from Periyar to Kanshiram, the message has remained the same. Power must go to the people. Equality must go to the people. And today in Delhi, we declare the era of central dominance is ending. The era of central dominance is ending. The era of Bahujan Dravidian federalism is beginning. May this seminar inspire us to build an India where every state is respected, every community is empowered, every language is protected, every human being is treated with equal dignity. But if we truly want to implement this vision, it cannot be done by any individual alone. This is a moment that demands a collective action, organized action, and united action. The Gen Z youth of this country, are more politically aware than ever. The courageous struggle of the Sikh students at Punjab University forced the center to bend. I want to repeat it. The courageous struggle of Sikh students at Punjab University forced the center to bend. The historic farmers movement led with the Sikh bravery and discipline and compelled the central government to retreat. Bravery, courage, solidarity, and equality are born from the Sikh soil. And college students across India are the new force that can decide the politics of the next century. The students must travel across India. They must spread the message of equality, fraternity, and true democracy. If we fail to do this, we will watch our country decline before our eyes. And we cannot allow that to happen. Therefore, today, we began a new journey across the nation under the banner of the People's Federal Front of India. The People's Federal Front of India. In the coming years, the People Federal Front of India will rise as a national alternative to both the NDA and the India bloc. Its mission is clear: to share a power, to democratize the Union of Indian states, and to return the power to the people, to respect elders, thinkers, and leaders who have joined as a special speaker today. I extend my humble request to heartfelt invitation. Stand with us to become a co-organizer. Help us to build the organization that will protect this country and its people. Thank you. Bahujan Khalsa Raj. Thank you. You want to answer? Because before some that we have finished. I'll let you translate.
Mike. Mike here. Mike. Mike.
First of all, you announce it. Good evening, everyone. Actually, I was not interested in giving speech, but still, go on to the chairs and all audience. Just it is like gratitude to all the speakers and questions to all the audience. That there are specifically 3-4 points that all the speakers mentioned. That in the beginning, the constitution itself was carried forward by wrong means, by wrong procedures, that is the quasi federal, as you said so, that would have not been. My question is, in that era, 75 years back, when we were ruined and totally exploited, the country was in delicate condition. Was it feasible to run this country in pure federal structure, pure federal manner? Could we envisage that the country could be run by purely as a federal structure? Or was it possible to give the powers to the provinces? Because overall we had covered the provinces to make one nation. So, as you Vice Chancellor, sir, you denounced everything, you rejected everything. That this is whole from the beginning, and even you denounced Ambedkar also. Okay, no issue, it is your freedom. But I don't agree that in the beginning it was not possible for us to run this country without a quasi-federal structure, because provinces and the states were not having so much power and not having so much the machineries, the education, the system, the root level working that we could run this country. This is my perception. This is wrong. Number two, my question is: if you are forwarding this country towards the unitary system, as you are proclaiming federal system, like as it is America, the states have their own monopoly. There is a state monopoly in America. The 50 states constitute one nation, that is USA. It means somewhere, take my point at the audience, it means somewhere we are indicating that we are putting this country towards the presidential system. Presidential system also. These are two key questions. What is the exact question? Exact question is, was it possible from the beginning to run this country with a federal structure in that scenario? Or you are speaking that at that time was not right. Right now it is okay that we should go ahead. Listen, complete. Right now we need certain transformations, we need amendments, we need certain further advancement to make this country more accountable and strong. And we want to distribute the powers between central and state. That's fine. But from the very beginning, the inception of the constitutions, we are saying it is all together when it is rubbish, it is denounced. I don't agree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. I think that this is democratically allowed now. Please.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the president of this conference for allowing him to ask questions because it is good that we heard, and otherwise he would have got any feedback from us. Maybe in 1 hour or 30 minutes or 45 minutes, all of us have spoken. We are not in a position, we do not have time to explain everything. So, but anyway, abstractly something we have explained being written in our own language. So I think that you asked a question that is really very nice. The thing is, he's asking the question that had it been possible in the first, at the first instance, to have incorporated or adopted federalism when the country was in disarray and it was segregated. That was the question. So to that question, that then when are we going to have federalism? See, we are trying to cross the river, and we have to set the right foot the first, so that one by one, step by step, that we would be crossing the river. And if we set a wrong foot, then we will be drowned in the river. So the thing is, the Constitution say even now, I'm trying to, not only me, most of the Constitution experts in the world are now claiming that nationalism is not federalism. Federalism is the nationalism. Say, nationalism means that it's a consolidation of, all diverse things and unifying them into oneness. And it is federalism that should be the nationalism. That is the message even to the Trump imported to the United States. In the United States, the federation, the federal structure of the United States is very much wrong in many perspectives. I agree with you. But the thing is, the Indian federalism, being unitary in some occasions and federal in some occasions, we have to ensure that when, how, and on what aspects of politics, that is my question, entire throughout my deliberation. I was asking that why the politics, the aspirations of politics, the aspects and different dimensions of politics, including culture, religion, education, and land, agriculture, everything. These are all different dimensions and aspects of politics. And that is, they all belong to the state's power. And it should not be in the center. That was my thing. But why we failed to incorporate this there in the first place? That was the question. Otherwise, why are we? Because, when we were facing a situation that the country was, that there were about, 500 princely states, we have to unite. And that was politically, political will people were doing, leaders were doing. On the other hand, we needed some kind of a central unified governance for us to steer the country when it was in disarray. So at that time, yes, we needed a fairly a reasonable central institution to do that.
Yes.
But that central institution, in the first place, should have accommodated the aspects and aspirations of different politics.
Yeah, that's right. That I
And that was not there.
Yeah.
I was not countering Dr. Ambedkar,
Yeah, make
I think Dr. Ambedkar's intent and goal and his aspiration, even when there was a problem, when the states were overruled by the judiciary overreach or constitutional executive overreach, Dr. Ambedkar said one thing.
That's right.
Even in the deliberation, Dr. Ambedkar said one thing very clearly. So the states simply cannot be dismissed using 356. In case when there was a situation needed to dismiss, then the state should be consulted, and people of that state should be respected, and people will take care, and state should be consulted through some consultation
But that's
process.
not the procedure.
One year, but that procedure has never been followed because there was a lack of provisions in the constitution, lack of federal provisions in the constitution. That is why the Congress government dismissed more than 90 states elected by the people of those states.
But that
And
is
they were
not-
making mockery of these
That is
people
part
of the states.
Rolling people. That's
So
not.
it is not doing. Why the constitution is allowing them to do that? Why the constitution allowing them to
Because
do
they are
that?
sitting in the
So
power.
the constitution, see, please, sir, listen. The constitution is allowing them to do so. Because that is where I said, Dr. Ambedkar. One thing is, it shall not be left to the whims and fancy of the ruler.
That's right.
The constitution did not have the provision that is underlined, sir.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
That's-
Thank you.
वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा। आज से 75 साल पहले 1946 में जब संविधान सभा की पहली बैठक हुई, वो यही जगह कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन क्लब ऑफ इंडिया, फर्स्ट प्लेस। और उस जगह में बैठ के आज एक बार फिर से हम लोग इस सीरियस विषय पे डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं। निश्चित तौर पर आज जो देश के हालात हैं और उससे आप सब अवगत हैं, और आप सर का जो क्वेश्चन थे, जो आपने बातें रखी 3 सितंबर 1953 को जब आंध्र स्टेट बिल आया, तो डॉक्टर अम्बेडकर ने अपने स्टेटमेंट में कहा था क्लियर, दिस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन नॉट सुटेबल फॉर माइनॉरिटीज कम्युनिटी। मैं वो पहला व्यक्ति होऊंगा जो जरूरत पड़ने पर इसे जला के राख कर दे। वो दोनों डॉक्टर बी आर अम्बेडकर संविधान सभा में थे, वो दौर अलग था। जब वो राज्यसभा में थे तब वो दौर अलग था। और उस समय लोगों ने यह चिंता जाहिर की थी कि जो लचीलापन है संविधान का, उसका फायदा कभी न कभी जो सेंटर है वो उठा सकता है। और तब से लेके आज तक बहुत सारी अवसरों में सेंटर ने उस लचीलेपन का फायदा उठा के राज्यों के साथ अन्याय किया है। ये बात आज 75 वर्षों में किसी से छिपी नहीं। आज जब आप ये देश घूमते हैं तब आपको पता चलती है इस देश की विविधता क्या है। लेकिन जो सेंटर है और सेंटर में बैठी ब्राह्मण बनिया ताकतें हैं, वो इस देश को, इस विविध संस्कृति वाले देश को, विविध भाषाओं वाले देश को एक नेशन, एक भाषा, एक संस्कृति में तब्दील करना चाहिए। जब कोई सरकार, कोई पार्टी इस तरीके की भाषा बोलती है तो निश्चित तौर पे जो भारतीय संविधान की संघीय भावना उसके खिलाफ बात कर रही होती है। तो आज हम उसी संघीय भावना को, जो सच्चा संघवाद है, उसके ऊपर महत्वपूर्ण डिस्कशन हुआ। उसके लिए दिल्ली से पधारे वरिष्ठ पत्रकार मिस्टर अनिल चवैया जी का हार्दिक धन्यवाद। तमिलनाडु से आए मिस्टर चांसलर मिस्टर जवाहर नेशनल सर, आज 20 देशों की एजुकेशन पॉलिसी को ड्राफ्ट करने वाले व्यक्ति हैं। आपका बहुत बहुत हार्दिक धन्यवाद। बहुजन द्रविड़ पार्टी के राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष सरदार जीवन सिंह जी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सीनियर एडवोकेट मिस्टर अरुण माझी जी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आंध्र तेलंगाना के हमारे सीनियर लीडर बीजीआर नारागोरी जी, उन्होंने बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बातों किया, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और महाराष्ट्र की धरती से पधारे मिस्टर सोनवने जी, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। क्योंकि ये 2-3 घंटे का सेशन था, काफी सारे वक्ता थे। हमारे एक साथी केरला से हमारे पार्टी प्रेसिडेंट मिस्टर वायलाल राजीवन जी को अब समय नहीं मिल पाएगा, लेकिन आप इतनी दूर से आए, आप सब्र के साथ सभा की नैतिकता, उसका पालन किया, आपको तहे दिल से बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आप सभी विद्वान साथी दूर दराज से चल के आए, आंध्र प्रदेश, मध्य प्रदेश, दिल्ली, हरियाणा, पंजाब, तेलंगाना, तमिलनाडु, आप सबका भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और ये शुरुआत है, ये इस डिस्कशन का अंत नहीं है, ये शुरुआत है और आगे भी इस तरीके के कार्यक्रम होते रहेंगे। और आप सबको हम जो है तो इनवाइट करेंगे। इसी के साथ मैं अब इस सभा का, इस सेमिनार का के समापन की घोषणा करता हूँ। और अभी आईटी की व्यवस्था है, तो आप सबसे अनुरोध है कि काफी लंबे समय से आप बैठे हैं, बोर हो गए होंगे, थकावट महसूस हो रही होगी। आप सब जो है आईटी की व्यवस्था है, उसको एंजॉय करके जाइएगा। वाहेगुरु जी का खालसा। Good.